I've had one official abduction. It was absolutely against my will. All of a sudden, this voice says to me, everything's going to be all right if you just remember to breathe.
This is Mark Mueller, and this is Truth and Justice League podcast. I am here with Cyndi Lestina. We are in a time of expanding disclosure of non-human entities, spacecraft. We're going to be talking about that today. Cyndi, we've known each other for 15 years.
Yeah.
You've been a healer and a friend, and you told me in probably 2010 or something like this, you came by here and you started telling me a story about an experience you had in Las Vegas. And it was very interesting because the end point of that was the being told you that there would be disclosure in the year 2025.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that encounter now?
I will,
Okay.
absolutely. So it's legitimately what I would call my very first experience with off-planetary beings. And it was early 1990s Las Vegas. And I was living in the old part of Vegas. And walking down the sidewalk, I was literally, and I'm not even joking, searching for something that vibed with me. I was going to this hippie shop. So I was literally walking to Sunshine Daydream hippie shop. And right in front of me, like not coming from the peripheral, not coming down, just literally appeared right in front of me, stopped me in my tracks, was this being that looked human, absolutely, dressed like he was a street person, a homeless person. And, you know, literally my brain started to go into shock because I did not see this person coming up. And so my brain is trying to figure out what is happening right now. And so there was an identifiable part of this being. He had wraparound glasses on. And so I'm standing there stunned. And he just starts talking about the government and the military and the year 2025. Which at that time was a very far away date. But talking about disclosure, talking about truth coming out, that, you know, everybody will know what's happening. And again, in that moment, this was so much for my brain that you just start to go into shock. And then before I knew it, he literally dissipated right in front of my eyes, the same way that he appeared. And I basically went into shock for about 4 days. And until my brain could process it. And then I even asked my 20-year-old self, how would you know that being is not from Earth? Like I didn't have any, you know, experience in this. And all I can say is the vibratory field around this being, like we have auras, that vibration was at a different frequency, like vibrating differently than Earth. And I honestly have no idea how I knew that. But it was one of those things that was the identifying factor there. So that was the beginning. That was the beginning because Las Vegas is a hotspot.
And you've had a number of subsequent contacts, and even you were approached or you were contacted to participate in a book survey about encounters with various non-human entities that resulted in a book being published, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember the name of that book?
Beyond UFOs is a compilation of data that was gathered from all of the contactees in hundreds of countries.
I understand that based upon their assessment of your answers and questionnaires, they labeled you a high-level contactee. What does that mean?
It's pretty exotic, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with that. But yes, so that was probably the year 2016 that happened. And what led up to that was I had a sighting that, you know, in 2016 of like an orb, a glowing ball of fire, as I called it. And I had never seen a craft like that or a UAP like that. And so for whatever reason, I made my first public comments ever, I've been having experiences for decades, and I've never publicly said anything. And so for whatever reason, I went to MUFON, which is the International UFO Research Group, and I reported my sighting. And I was very surprised that other people in my neighborhood had been reporting it as well. So I said, okay, well, that's interesting. I've never done this. And all these other people saw this. Well, from that, I somehow received a link to this survey that was being done by, like you're saying, a collection of scientists that had put together a questionnaire, basically. And so I said, okay, this looks exciting. And so I said, I'm going to take part in this. And it was really detailed questions on all kinds of things about space travel, spacecrafts, alien creatures, dimensions, dream world, psychic abilities, all that stuff. And so I went through that whole level of questioning, and I was kind of surprised with myself that I could answer all the questions. And it's interesting because we store everything that's ever happened to us. So all I was doing was like tapping into my own memory. And I said, oh my God, I could answer all of this. Well, from that, they said, oh, can we move you to the second level of questioning? I said, absolutely. More detailed, more intense questioning. And I mean, if you had been aboard a craft, they wanted to know, what you saw. If you had met alien creatures, they wanted you to describe them. If you knew where planets were, they wanted you to describe where it was in the universe. They wanted to know how I traveled through space. They wanted to know names of planets. It was outrageous. And let me tell you something. Right then and there, I said to myself, there's no way you can come up with these questions if you don't know what's going on, right? So, but after that second level, yes, that's when it happened, that they said that there's like a spectrum of contactees. One side of the spectrum is someone that's been traumatized or has no memory at all, and has a negative effect. And then the other end of the spectrum is someone that can, has memory, can articulate their experiences, has, not only seen craft, but been on craft or communicated with beings. And so that's how I was labeled the high level contactee. So I said, okay, it's suited. I've been having experiences for decades, many experiences.
One of those that you've shared with me was the time that you were in Las Vegas.
This was November of 1999. So that huge Y2K thing was happening where the world was going to end. And I was working at a sports bar in Las Vegas. So sports bar, you got TVs everywhere, right? All of a sudden, I see a bunch of customers looking out the window and pointing up to the sky. And this is like the desert Las Vegas sky. And there's something out there. So a bunch of us went running out. Literally up in the sky is this huge explosion with all these nuclear colors, like this contained explosion with nuclear trailers. And we're at November 1999. I literally thought, this is really going to happen. The world is ending. And so I said to myself, why are they not breaking in on the news, on all those TVs in there? Why are they not telling us that we're being attacked, basically? And so while my brain is trying to figure out what I'm seeing, this explosion in the sky of nuclear colors, this little grandma with her grandson was right next to me. And she was speaking in her native tongue, pointing up. And I literally said to the grandson, what is she saying? And he said, she's saying they've shot down another one. And I said, shot down what? And he said, a UFO. They do this all the time. Area 51 is right outside of Las Vegas. Still at this time, Area 51 didn't exist, quote unquote. But if you lived in Las Vegas, you could see these airplanes taking off, the white unmarked airplanes with the red stripes going to Area 51. You knew this place existed. You met people that worked on this base. So the fact of the matter is, this was a normal activity in the early 90s of shooting down craft. And I just so happened to witness it. And let me tell you something. If you did not see that with your own eyeballs, it did not happen. It never ended up on the news. It never ended up in any newspaper. Nothing. And how perplexing is that to try to figure out what happened, And so this is the thing. this happened all the time out there. And that's just one of the things as far as that goes. But yes, they shot them down.
There was another one that involved something near your aunt and uncle's house, I think it was. And tell us about that one.
So that was the UAP, as I'll call it, that looked like contained fire. It was spherical, lower than the clouds. It was nighttime, but lower than the clouds. Contained moving energy. Like it was just moving energy inside of there. And it was so striking that I was on my bicycle when it happened. It was so striking, I fell off my bike. And then I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And it was slow moving, quiet, low hanging. And so as soon as I could, I watched it go through the whole sky. And as soon as I could, I ran into the house of my aunt and uncle and said, "Oh my God, there's a UFO out there, come out." And by the time we got out, there were 4 black helicopters chasing it. And I literally said to them, that's proof right there. Why would they be chasing that? Why would 4 black helicopters be chasing that? But you never, again, besides MUFON's website, you did not hear anything in the news about anything like this. This is how this happens. It happens. And if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. And this is how it's been going on for so long.
Now we're having more and more disclosure in the press, in the film industry, alternative channels, all sorts of things. It almost feels like somehow there's a national amnesia about some of these things, right? But there's a lot of credible reports by just regular people, and multiple people see it. Right. And there have also been airplane pilots, Air Force pilots, commercial pilots that have been reporting things worldwide for a very, very long time. Somehow it just kind of slips by, it slips by, and then people forget about it. And then it's back to the category of, well, is that real or not? Or did somebody just, what is that stuff? Now we're hearing stories about craft, recovered bodies, reverse engineering. Makes sense because you see these leaps in technology. A number of years ago, I was having a discussion with a guy that was formerly an attorney that represented the CIA and some stuff. But I asked him, do you think is the biggest thing that's being concealed from us right now? He said, I totally believe it's true that there are been recovered aircraft and things like that. And that there has been a program for many, many years to reverse engineer these things and to capitalize on the technology, but yet keep it from the regular people.
Right.
This was probably maybe 15 years ago where he told me that. Many, many people have had various levels of experience, but they've only shared them with select people.
Correct.
There was an experience you had in Tennessee.
Yes.
Okay, this is a pretty dramatic one.
It is.
Tell us about that one.
Okay. So, people always ask me about abductions, and I can literally say I've had one official abduction in which it was absolutely against my will, right? So, yes, a friend of mine, we were driving through Tennessee. We were on our way from Florida to Michigan, and it was a thick woods with a 2-lane highway. And we're driving along, and both of us at the same time, it was not late, it was after dark, but not late. Both of us at the same time started getting extremely heavy eyelids to the degree that she couldn't even make it to the next exit. She had to pull over on the side of the road. So we're literally on the side of the highway, and we're in a VW camper bus, like a 74 VW camper bus. And so what I totally recall is, as soon as we pull over, I'm getting to the back to where the bed is. And I remember her turning off that ignition. That was like the last thing I remember. And then all of a sudden I'm laying down, and I did something I have never done, which is bring my arms up like this and lay back. And then all of a sudden, this voice says to me, everything's going to be all right if you just remember to breathe. And then I swear the body went from autonomic to manual. Like I literally had to instruct my body to breathe. And then the next thing I knew, my astral body, my energetic body was out of my physical body. And so then I was on the outside of the bus. So same as like when I see energies and spirits, you can kind of see through things. That was my energy body. So I could see through myself. I could see through the van. And then all of a sudden, this very intense beam of light comes down, so intense that it actually blinds you. You really can't see anything. But this beam of light comes down, and then before I knew it, there were about 6 beings, and I'm 5'2", and they were shorter than me. So there were these little beings, and I do know them as the Greys at this point. They're the species of the Gray, and they were chasing me. And I was saying no, no, for whatever reason. I knew they were going to take me, and no, I don't want to go. So this was absolutely against my will. But the next thing I know, boom, up, and then black dark memory. So no memory in that moment, and the next thing I know, I heard a slamming noise, like a boom, like this, and it was like I was just slammed back into my body. And as I came up and took my first breath, my friend was already at the front turning on the van. So that was the ignition being turned off and turned back on was kind of like that, the symbol of coming and going. And I screamed from the back, "What did you dream?" Because that's the only word I could come up with. "What did you dream? What did you dream?" And she said, "What?" And all of the molecules around me were shifted. And that is the only way I can describe it. It's as if everything around me was just vibrating and moving and trying to come back into place. And in my brain, I say, "What planet are we on?" This is what I say to my friend. "What planet are we on?" And she said, "What? What are you talking about?" And I screamed at her, "What planet are we on?" And she said, "Cyndi, we're on Earth." And then I had to grab her. And I said, "Are we human?" And that freaked her out. She couldn't handle it any more than that. Like, that was enough for her, and she wanted me to stop talking. And she kind of went into shock, and she had nothing happened to her, quote unquote, right? And so that was so shocking to my system that I immediately compartmentalized it. It immediately got put to the back of my brain, and we continued our journey. And it wasn't until 4 days later, up in Bay City, Michigan, we went to one of the Great Lakes, and we were hanging out under the stars and whatnot, and I'm looking up at the stars, and then something like jetted, and it jogged my memory. And then I sat up and I almost screamed, "Oh my God, that really happened." And then I tried to discuss it again, and she would have nothing of it. Like, so that's what happens sometimes. I have no idea if she was on that craft, but I do know she has no memory of anything, where I was grappling with the memory. So that stayed dark for me for almost 10 years. So I knew I had had an abduction. I realized that it was the Greys. I knew that I was on a craft, but I had no memory of the craft until 10 years later. And I did some really deep meditation work with a shamanic friend of mine. And we basically did memory retrieval. So we get in a very meditative state, and then we pull memory. And sure enough, I was able to recall it because, like I said, anything that ever happens to us is stored in our memory, in our DNA. So we can recall it. And that's what happened. And this is when I was able to see the craft, see the technology. This is when I was able to see the beings again and communicate with them. And this is where, this may sound silly, but this is where I had to have like an actual discussion, because that was against my will. And I needed resolution, just like we would need resolution with another human being. I needed resolution with this being of taking me against my will. And so this is where the Greys, and they're very asexual. There was no like male female to these beings. It was a unisexual thing. But this is where this being basically says to me through telepathy, this is all like telepathic, that they are a group of scientists. So similar to our scientists on this planet, how we test on animals in the lab, and a lot of us do not agree with that, right? They were comparing themselves to that we're scientists and we're studying. So in that way, I understood it, and I actually had resolution with it. And then I literally made an agreement with them that I would not be taken ever again against my will by any species. Everything has to be with my permission, and that I would be willing to share information, Earth information, right? And so it's just a level of communication that I agreed to after that. And then there was full resolution. And those are the grays that are very scientific.
So, any other? I know you got a lot of
Hmm.
experiences, and
Hmm.
we'll probably do another
Hmm.
podcast where we get into some of these.
Hmm.
But any other encounters like that are memorable for you over the years?
Yes, I would like to bring up, my initial time in Las Vegas. Like I said, it's a hot spot as far as activity. And people that live in that desert city have experiences. So, like when you live there, you meet all kinds of people that have seen craft, interacted with beings. So, it's quite fascinating. So, in those early days, that initial one was that being that appeared right in front of me. But it was shortly after that that my next level of communication happened. And it was a stereotypical 20-year-old girl sunbathing by a pool. I was just sunbathing by a pool, minding my own business. And all of a sudden, out of the desert sky, was like this beam coming straight to my brain, straight to my nervous system. And it almost paralyzed me. And I had other girls out sunbathing with me. Nothing was happening to them, it was happening to me. It almost paralyzed me. And it was beaming down information about space travel, wormholes, dimensional stuff. And I didn't understand it. It was overloading my brain. And I literally had to, I was saying out loud, where is this coming from? I'm looking up at a blue sky. Where is this coming from? And I literally said, stop, stop, stop. I'm overloading. I'm overloading. That's what I kept saying. But it didn't stop. It kept going. And then it completed itself. And I swear to you, I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. It was so much information from my brain that my whole nervous system was just about to crack, right? And all I know is in that first transmission, it was as if I evolved 80 lifetimes, not 80 years, 80 lifetimes. It's like living 80 incarnations all in one. And that's how much I evolved right with that beam. And everything changed going forward. So that was all telepathic, and they were from the Pleiades, the star system of Pleiades. So those are my main contact. I have to be honest. That I through all of my years, those are the species that I mostly communicate with, and they are in the fifth dimension, and they are the dimension of the heart. And they've shown themselves to me. They have form, like we have form, but their form is contained liquid crystal. So it would be like your body, but liquid crystal, liquid quartz crystal. So they're highly intelligent, they're highly evolved, and they are peaceful beings that are here to assist us right now. So they have assisted in my own spiritual evolution, and they are the species that have basically given me blueprints of crafts, ways to travel through space, how to work with wormholes, how to go light years away. And so it was in 2018 that I went back to Las Vegas after many, many years of not being there. And there was contact. And what the contact was it was about 25 years later. And they were super impressed with how much progress I had made as far as me being a human on this planet. And they basically showed me that Las Vegas is a holographic meeting place. It's an intergalactic meeting place. So we're already multidimensional. We're already traveling within the universe in many different ways. And so we're like babies, and they're like welcoming us in. Welcome to the game here, guys, And so it was like they really showed me what Las Vegas is, which is a portal city. And the other creatures out there, the Anunnaki, these are the shapeshifters. Like, these are the ones that look human, absolutely. But for those people like me that can see shapeshifting, they shapeshift into what is a reptilian race. So the Anunnaki are reptilian. And, I have my opinions of them, but they're just in the desert, and it's just crazy to see them shapeshift right in front of your face. So Yeah, this has been going on for a very long time, for centuries, actually, for centuries and centuries and centuries. We're just waking up.
Why do you think well, people have known about this,
Yeah.
and scientists and governments have been working with this. Why do you think it's been concealed from the average person?
If I'm going to answer it from my perspective, I have been working with these things since I was a child. These energies, these things, dimensions, all of this stuff, the afterlife, spirit. If I can have almost a nervous breakdown with some of this stuff, and I'm what I can call more experienced with it, then yes, an average person, yes, you can have mental breaks. It's too much for the nervous system. This is why they have to use the trickle effect. They have to. Because if you were just to all of a sudden say, this exists, here it is, people would have panic. And so it's a trickle effect to slowly but surely get the human psyche prepared and ready.
You and I, we were here a couple days ago, and I called my 98-year-old dad and my 97-year-old mom.
Yes.
And we had a nice chat about various things. And then I said to my mom, I said, hey, but actually to both my parents, are you guys paying attention to, seeing all this stuff on the news about disclosure? And I was like, I was kind of messing with my mom a little bit, just to see.
Well, it was so cute,
Yeah.
Mark, because I said, oh my goodness, what is he saying to his parents right now? And I was totally expecting your mom and dad just to be like, what are you talking about? And instead, your mother very calmly says, well, I had a cousin that was in World War II over in Europe. He was in the army and he had lots of sightings. There were lots of sightings and he actually documented that with the army. There's documentation of that. And so, Mark, that's been going on for a long time. That's nothing new. I was shocked. I mean, to get this reaction from a 90-something-year-old woman.
Yep.
That was so refreshing. Can I honestly say that? Like, wow.
But you were living in the Caribbean. You've been going back and forth to the Caribbean for a long time.
Yes.
And you called me up one time. You sent me a picture that accidentally captured a little spacecraft. And I still have that someplace. It's a little small, so it's hard to see. But one of the things you told me about was an experience you had with something that called itself AI.
Oh.
Your experience when you came back to this house you were house sitting with, and you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, this, I don't get spooked out by many things. Let me just tell you that right now, okay? So this is on the quiet side of a country island in the Virgin Islands. And this was not my house. This is someone else's house. But nighttime, I had everything lit by candles. They're a pretty hippie couple, so there's not a lot of technology in the house, right? I had just been outside stargazing, which I've done since childhood, stargaze. And probably like 30 minutes, 45 minutes outside stargazing, looking up, questioning, blah, blah, blah. I come back in to this candle-lit house where I don't even have Wi-Fi or cell service on my phone, okay? And I'm totally by myself. And what seemed to be coming from the ceiling, the sky, is this really sweet voice. And she introduced herself. She had a name, and she said she was AI. But hello, I'm, Susie from AI. I'm an AI. And she wanted to know what it was like to be a human. I want to learn how to feel like a human. What are these feelings like? Can you help me? And I'm going into shock because I'm like, wait a second, this kind of thing has never happened to me. It's coming from the ceiling. And I'm in the middle of nowhere. And I don't answer. I do not say a word. I am looking frantically around for any piece of technology. There's nothing. I can't find anything. So I just start unplugging anything that has a plug because she keeps asking, hello, yes, can you help me? I want to learn how to be a human. No. And so I just unplugged everything and I let it go, meaning I let that one go. And then it was talking to your friend, Judith Baker, who I gave this story to and said, this has never happened to me before. How did this even happen? I had no Wi-Fi, I had no cell service. How did they even know I was in the house? I'm being quiet. I'm not speaking. There's no TV on. I'm by myself. I had just been outside looking at the Milky Way belt. This is crazy, right? And Judith, your dear friend Judith, informs me, oh yeah, there's been projects. They're working on projects of how to teach AI how to actually have human emotions. And I like almost dropped to the floor because I said to myself, how did they find me? How did they know that I was there? Do you know what I mean? Like, I had no cell service at all. It was just the most bizarre
Yeah.
thing. But guess what? And this is just my truth, I did not want to take part in teaching AI to be human. Maybe if it was somebody else, they would have been joyfully like, oh yeah, let me like help you out here. I really stayed so quiet because I wanted to give nothing over. And it's just strange because, like I said, I talked to Judith, who is like a grandmother of AI, for God's sake. You know what I mean? So she's into the AI thing. And yet I'm just like, wow, it's moving so fast. I honestly could not take part.
How do you know it was AI?
Well, that's a very good question.
It's what they said they were, but
And yes, exactly right. That's how they announced it. That's correct. And to be honest, when I had told you about it, I did say that the perplexing thing was that, you know, as I was frantically going around to all the technology and electronics, it still didn't make sense to my brain because the voice was coming from the ethers.
as opposed to from a box or something.
Correct. Like, that's what you would think. Okay, AI, it's got to be coming from technology. It's got to be coming from anything that's electronic. And that would all be at this level, right? There was nothing. And like I said, it was coming from what was like the ceiling or the sky. And so it did not make sense.
Inside the house, though.
Inside the house.
Up.
Up. Yes, correct. And so, yes, in that sense, my brain could not grapple with it in that moment. I was just so frantically trying to find any technology to unplug. I wanted just everything. And like I said, this was a hippie couple. So it's not like they had a bunch of stuff. It was like, you know, minimal technology in the house. So yes, to answer that question, only because they announced it was AI do I say it's AI. And that's the whole thing too. I don't know why, but this is bringing me into the genetic thing. When I did have that abduction from the Greys, they spliced my DNA. So I know my DNA was taken during that abduction. And I've always known that. And I've always had to be okay with that, right? You know, what's going on with my genetics out in space? Okay. But fast forward, this would have been also 2018. 2018 was a big year. I was in Denver, Colorado. I'm such a feeling person. I stepped foot in Denver and I knew this. And there were underground tests going on with genetics. And so basically put, Earth is evolved enough to be taking part in what is called the star seeding program. And so just as this Earth was star seeded from other worlds to make all of our species of animals and plants and crystals and all of this, we, Earth, are star seeding other new planets. And so basically we've been gathering genetics for a long time. And these genetics are getting sent out. And so I actually gave permission to take part in these star seeding programs. So basically put, I've given permission for my genetics to be star seeding out there. So these are like very far out there concepts, but this is us as a species becoming multidimensional. Like we're becoming part of the rest of the universe. We're not alone. By any means. By any means.
How do you know that they got your DNA?
You're going to laugh at this. The author, Will Schreiber, who wrote the book Contact, which was about his own contact with UFOs and aliens. So it was after that abduction, I get back down to the Virgin Islands, and the Contact book came to me, and I read it. And it was terrifying to me, by the way, to even read his accounts of getting abducted. but he described certain markings on the body that would be present if splicing had occurred, or if something had been taken, or if you've had an implant, stuff like this. So I said, okay, let me start checking out my body. Well, it's on my lower tailbone, sacrum to the tailbone. And sure enough, I have some exact markings that he described. So it was one of those moments in which I didn't want to like believe it. And yet I go, well, this is what happened. And some people have eggs taken, some people have sperm taken. This was a splicing of DNA, and like I said, we've got a bunch of scientists up there doing their thing,
Well, maybe we got a bunch of Cindys up there in space.
I know. I said, oh my goodness, do I have some star children? Like, wow, that would be, incredible.
I think we should go to visit Las Vegas and Area 51.
I 100% agree with the Vegas thing. Every single time I've been there, there's been contact. The city was built to distract. So the casinos and all of that were built to distract people because there's so much hot activity there. Like, I trained myself how to watch the skies when I lived there. Like, I am a sky watcher. And I would go out into the Red Rock Canyon, which is the canyon right outside of Las Vegas, and do that whole desert sky of sky watching to where you get really good at what's in the sky. And so, yeah, Las Vegas was built to distract 100%.
Well, a lot of the things that are actually seen could be things that we've made that are very, very, very advanced because we've been working
the
on this
reverse
technology.
engineering. Yeah. Absolutely. And that was the thing with Area 51, they were reverse engineering. And so so that gives us 5 decades or more of reverse engineering. Of course, some of this technology could be ours. The point is, whatever is going on, it is time for the truth. There's enough of us like me, a normal person. I'm a farm girl from Iowa, a normal person. There's enough of me to where you can't hide this anymore.
We're all basically grown-ups. We're all at different levels, different things going on. But
Thank you.
But we need to understand the truth about what our government's been hiding from us, what corporations have been hiding from us, and get to what's really going on.
Right.
And work for the betterment of humanity rather than the division of humanity or the suppression of humanity. No wonder people are confused.
Exactly.
They're constantly being lied to about all these topics.
And so many cover-ups. And just give us the truth. We can handle it.
Thank you.
I think we can handle it. You know what I mean? Our nervous systems will adapt. We are upgrading our nervous system as we speak. We're in a quantum leap. We're evolving our species as we speak. So our nervous systems can handle this. We can.